There are two things that separates the winners from the losers. Number one, they had a coach. Number two, they did what the coaches told them. Hi, I'm Grace Plata, and I'm here to equip, empower, and encourage you to help you live your best life. Today, I would like to talk to you guys about how to win in life with accomplishment, joy, and the ability to see things differently than everybody else. Does that sound like something you'd like to hear? Okay, so this is probably the best thing you can do for yourself, the most beneficial thing. So take notes, okay? Number one is be teachable. Being a teachable person is probably, no, I think it is the best thing you can do for yourself. But why? Because if you're not willing to learn, no one can help you. No, if you're not willing to receive knowledge or whatever, yeah, no one can help you with that. It doesn't matter how much you crave success, fame, power, money, whatever. If you're not willing to learn, nobody can help you. There are two other things that are included with the ability to be teachable. Number one is humility. I mean, if you're prideful, then that pretty much puts a wall in front of you for being able to receive whatever you want to learn. Because when you're prideful, you think you're all that, you won't pay attention, and you won't try to listen to something you think you've already heard before or you think you don't need to listen to. And if we ever get to the point of where we think we've done enough of whatever that we don't need to learn anymore, we are in dangerous territory. If we ever get to the point of where we're like, I've won the state championship. Who does my coach think he is telling me techniques to increase my balance? No thanks, buddy. I'm just fine. That is a bad place to be, because when we are puffed up with pride, we won't be able to find or hear the next step for us to advance. Next, the second part of being teachable is the lost art of taking advice or correction. If we neglect to take advice, we actually do not want to advance. If we can't be teachable, our dreams will never be reachable. Humility in the art of taking correction and the ability to be teachable, humility, the art of being corrected and the ability to take advice and being teachable go hand in hand, I guess, since there's three of them. But when we're truly teachable, we'll be humble enough to receive correction, and we'll have enough desire to be better at whatever we're doing, so that when instruction is given to us, we'll take it, we'll run with it, and we'll come back saying, okay, what next? So would you like how to know if you're teachable or not? It's a one-question test, and I bet you can pass. The only thing you have to know and test yourself is that if someone gives you correction, you get offended. That is how you know if you're not teachable. Because if we get offended or we roll our eyes at something we don't really want to hear, that tells us we are unteachable. We think we've heard it all before. Does that make sense? So being teachable, just as a refresh, being teachable is being humble. It's having the lost art of correction and advice, and being not being offended when we get that correction. Okay, does that make sense? And then the second journey that separates the losers from the winners is that they do what their coaches tell them. So now after you've received whatever your coach has told you, you go and do it. It's kind of like fried ice cream in my mind, because it's talked about a lot, just go do it. I've said that at least the last 3 Facebook Lives I've done, but it's like fried ice cream. It's talked about a lot, but it's hard to find the real thing. So that leads us to the second part of the second journey. The second part is information plus application equals success. It's doing what you learned. I learned about this journey the really hard way, because I found I was really good at turning on podcasts and messages, picking up another book or whatever. I was really good at that. I was teachable. I was whatever. But whatever I was doing, it was pretty much just as good as me listening to music, because it would go in one ear and out the other. It would pretty much just pass by me like I was just air. It wouldn't have any effect on me. And after I read this book, and he's like, it's a really thin book, but it's really thick with content and value, and it's awesome. But he talks in the book, in the intro, that do not go on to the next chapter until you have implemented what you learned in this chapter. And I'm just like, okay, then I should do that in all of the books, shouldn't I? So I challenged myself to only listen to one podcast a day or only read one chapter, and afterwards I would think about it. I'd write down my thoughts on it. I'd really began to see myself being able to do whatever they said to do, and then I would go and do it. And I would just like really actually listen to a message. This is kind of hard to admit, but I would almost start podcasts just for the satisfaction of finishing them. Like, that's how almost bad it got for me. So that's a little embarrassing. But anyway, so after I read that book, I started to really actually take that information and run with it. And I've noticed success stories that people who actually did what was mentioned in whatever, they were the person who are like made tens of millions of dollars or whatever. There's tons of self-help books and podcasts and videos and Facebook Lives, but the only thing that is going to change our lives is when we act on that information. And I'm honestly talking to myself right now. So I'm going to mention this again. Just do it. Act on it. And there are certain things in life we only really learn when we put our hands to it. I have learned so much better when I actually get to hold a physical thing. Like, actually, like, I love science, and I love having to be able to like touch and feel whatever we're learning about, except when you're talking about chemistry, and you got like the atoms and whatever. I mean, technically you could, but anyway. So there are only certain things we can learn when we put our hands to it. So let's do it. And anybody can listen, but only so many people do. Only so many people get the results that are promised. And why? Because the people that get the results they're promised act on it. They actually stepped out and did it. But we all have the keys to success. There are so many people who will give you secrets that they're technically not even secrets anymore. We have the keys. Now we can open the door. I mean, seriously, all we have to do is like actually do something. So Socrates said that if we want to move the world, we have to move ourselves. And I heard this message the other day that I actually thought about because it hit me really, really hard. So the guy's like talking about like, if you do what you tell other people to do, you'll be just fine. And I'm like, ouch. And then he goes on to say his most popular quote, "Don't be a know-it-all, be a do-it-all." And I just think that's amazing. I mean, that says it all right there. That sums up success. So, as a review, be coachable. Do what your coach says. Do what your coach says as you're on this journey of life, as you're in this game of life. It's really simple. Maybe it's almost too simple that people overlook it. So that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about this week. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you got value from it, and I hope you'll think about it. So I'll be here, and I'll be thinking about my own words. So let's see how that goes. So I'll see you guys next week. Thank you for joining me.